I mentioned in the last demo some of the more advanced techniques that you can do after painting in your hair to get it to look a little bit more realistic. Now, I selected a little bit wilder hairstyle to start with to use it as an example of what you can do to actually groom the hair after painting it in. So what I've done here is I've actually painted 3 separate layers of hair. I've actually done a right side, a left side, as well as bangs as separate layers, so that they can all be adjusted separately inside the Liquify filter. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go and distort the hair in groups and actually get it to bend into a specific hairstyle. So I'm going to target each of the layers in turns, starting with the bangs, and I'm going to go up to Filter and pull down to Liquify. This brings up a daughter window in Photoshop CS, and by default it shows you all of your layers. I'm going to change that to just the background, so it's going to be showing me the layer that I'm working on in front of the background that it will eventually be composited in front of. Now, the circle of the cursor is the size of your distortion. The center of the distortion is the center of the circle, and it tapers off towards the edge of the outer circle. So, I have a pretty good brush size, and my brush density is low, as well as my brush pressure. What that does is it gives me just a very slight distortion, feathered off nicely towards the edge. So I'm not grabbing large clumps of hair and bending it all in one piece. I can have a little bit more accuracy by using the large brush and clicking actually a little bit outside of the area that I want to distort, so I get a nice fall off to my distortion. And you can just start bending the hair in groups and getting it into the design and shape that you want. Now for this particular filter, I'm using a mouse. The reason for this is I've noticed in the past that the Wacom tablet, for whatever reason, does not deal well with the distortion inside of Liquify. It tends to bounce around a little bit and give you discrepancies. So I tend to use a mouse when doing Liquify. It just gives me a little bit more control. So once you get the hair warped into the shape that you want, you can click OK, or you can actually save your mesh if you decide to do multiple layers of the same thing. Let's say you had done several layers of the bangs, darker and lighter, a shadow and highlight. If they are all starting with the same basic shape, you might want to apply the same distortion to each set of hair in turn. In that case, you could save your mesh and then bring it in on each layer of bangs and apply the same distortion to all of them. In this case, I've already done a distortion for the bangs, so I'm just going to import that, and it will go ahead and reapply that mesh data. And depending on the speed of your machine, it will bring it back in, and you can click OK. It then processes the results and returns it back to Photoshop. Okay, so now we can click on Hair Right, invoke Liquify, and again I've taken the liberty of designing a mesh already. So I'll bring in the right side mesh. Click OK. And the left as well. This is just a very simple way to sort of wrangle the hair after the fact if the overall spray of the hair is a little bit too wild for your end result. So now we have it styled a little less loosely.